How many times did Faisal tweet the Simpsons meme, "Stop, they're already dead"?
Oh my gosh, it was so bad.
19 to 1. 19 to 1, the fourth largest margin of defeat in Blue Jays franchise history. Not an ideal way to head into the break then for John Gibbons' side. So I got to ask you this then. What's the bigger takeaway from the weekend? The fact that, hey, the Jays split a 4-game set against the best team in the American League?
Yeah.
Or the debacle that was Sunday afternoon?
I think it's the debacle, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what's fresh on our minds. It's like, what have you done for me lately? And as good as it is to split the series with the best offense in the American League, I mean, the way they lost, it was bad, and it actually kind of perfectly summarizes the first half of the season, right? Unofficial first half, because everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Jays.
It really felt that way, and I can't get past the fact that they lost 31-3 in those 2 games that they lost.
Yeah, good.
It really doesn't matter that well, you know, every now and then I surprise you. It's the Sportsnet mobile app. I just watched the way that they fell apart, and we've seen so many times this year in the games in which they do come apart the way they did, where you're right, everything that could go wrong seems to. Poor Hap out there, but it didn't matter who you put on the mound. The Astros have the best offense and remind us of the Jays, who not that long ago were as potent as they were, and man, did they ever. I'm surprised they stopped at 19.
And once again, and it's kind of the whole way that June went too, the Jays are in a tricky place. It's like once they make one step forward and then they take 2 steps back, and then they kind of get stuck in the mud.
It's a frustrating point right now.
It is, and yet you see where they are, and it's the worst, first half of the unofficial first start of the season.
Yeah.
Worst start since 2004, and yet, I mean, if you look at the standings, even though they're far back, wild card race, they're 5 back.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, they're still just there, which makes it even tougher for Blue Jays management as we look ahead. 17 games remaining until the trade deadline. So that's when it kind of comes around. What do you do? And I don't think they can do much either way.
Because it feels like they're so much farther away than 6 games below 500. It seems like they're nowhere.
Distant.
They should be nowhere near where they are in the standings. Mind you, 7 teams in front of them for a wild card spot. I don't know if you put all your eggs in that basket. But if you're Atkins and Shapiro, and we've heard them speak about how they're not going to blow it up at the deadline, but they're very much considering helping the team for the short term and for the future. But that puts you in a really tough spot because there's not that many pieces that you can move there either.
Right, but that's also Mark Shapiro always being very careful and wise with his words, right? Yeah. Because he can do both. You can see what's available. You don't need to be in a rush, because if you don't see anything out there that you can get back in return that's going to help you in the next 2 to 3 years, it's not worth it. But at the same time, they need to help the now by getting some pieces, like the higher prospects who are ready to go into the bigs right now. The Jays don't have a ton of those pieces.
Right.
And they need that, especially when they have this veteran lineup, and some of those veterans will get moved out of town, whether or not it's trade deadline or whether it's the summer. It's
funny listening to Blue Jays fans, be it on Twitter or calling into the fan, and they seem so frustrated with how the season has gone, but also, well, what do you do? Get rid of Donaldson. He's an MVP. Get rid of Smoke. He's having the best year ever. I don't know what trade market's out there for Smoke, because I don't know how many other teams out there think that he's worth giving up big pieces of their own.
Right.
So it's a really difficult spot. I am not envious of the boardroom conversations that the Blue Jays are having right now, because you look across the board, and I don't really know how much you could do for the future, even if you were to look at blowing it up completely, which they'd be crazy to do.
Well, yeah, and you can't really do that with how the roster's set.